This is an introductory video to GCAS's postgraduate course, Epistemology, set to kick off this Saturday, February the 4th. It's an exciting course, and those who are enrolled as GCAS subscribers or GCAS researchers are welcome to join. The course will cover the basics of epistemology and will include guest lectures from Lee McIntyre, who is the author of the MIT book Post-Truth, as well as Ali Hassan, who wrote the book The Critical Introduction to the Epistemology of Perception. That's a book that we'll be using, those two books in fact we'll be using, as well as some material from French philosopher Alain Badiou. We'll also be looking at Plato's epistemology found in the Republic, and we'll be exploring not just justified true belief, that is how a belief can ascend to knowledge through justification and or warrant. We'll be looking at the correspondence theory of truth, to some degree the coherence theory of truth. But basically, I want to express to you, those of you who are taking the course or are interested in enrolling, because in some way this course is at the heart of GCAS. You may know that GCAS is a model of higher education in which professors and intellectuals, as well as our graduates, co-own GCAS College. That is to say that intellectuals, philosophers, poets, writers, artists, and so on, we are the ones who determine the pedagogy, and it's not determined by those who are interested in hijacking higher education in order to grow hedge funds or real estate in the guise of higher education. What does this mean? Well, let's set it in the context of the history of philosophy, in which theory and action or praxis have been split asunder. That is, you can have a theoretically coherent position, but how that actually plays out in the world is very difficult, if not impossible. The Frankfurt School certainly tried to merge theory and praxis together, but this also failed on the level of the means of production. What do I mean by the means of production, and why is that important? Well, what I mean is that the means of education production is that which, or any production, is that which is controlled by an interest group and exploited through, or deployed through, exploiting the labors of others in order to grow power or material resources, money, profits, and so on. Well, GCAS is co-owned, as mentioned, by our faculty and graduates, as well as some investors. And as a result, we're the ones who makes the decisions about what gets taught, how it gets taught, who and what is involved with respect to how knowledge relates to liberation, how knowledge relates to not just identifying oppressive structures, but also, and more importantly, or equally importantly, overcoming those oppressive structures of power. And that's why, getting back to the course, that's why the epistemology course will be focused on not just what knowledge is in a theoretical vacuum or in the protective cordon of the castle or the ivory tower or a protected classroom. Rather, our position is to look at and examine what would knowledge look like when the production of knowledge itself is created and organized and deployed and reproduced by the very thinkers themselves. Is it possible, for example, to answer the question, what is thinking under the conditions of thought as such? What did that look like? And what are its limitations? How does justified true belief relate to a mode of production that is deployed and reproduced by philosophers, by thinkers, by artists? that's where we're going to end up. Now, we'll get there, of course, by rehearsing some of the basic premises of epistemology. What is belief as opposed to knowledge? And how do we get from belief to knowledge, especially in a world where information has been, and major campaigns about how information is distributed and the means by which that distribution takes place, but also the political or ideological underpinnings and end games of information. This is why you get to a position whereby you have post-truth or you have disinformation campaigns. How does science relate to that? How do we actually get outside biases or ideological positions that are harmful to certain social goods? And how do we identify that and therefore be able to use that information in order to conjure up an argument, a position that's also related to a way of life? This is, in fact, the locus of the course. This is what it's after. And this is why this epistemology course is at the heart of the GCAS model of co-ownership, collaborative knowledge production across the world. So these are the kinds of exciting things that this course will be talking about. We'll also have another guest lecture from a professor in Norway, but and having to do with metadata and how knowledge or epistemology and ontology relate to that. But the point is that throughout the course, we'll be having a discussion about knowledge and how knowledge relates to the division between theory on the one side and action or praxis on the other. Is it possible to think a thought whose condition is the means by which that thought can be reproduced, not identically, but reproduced differently, but at the same time reproducing the means of education production in a way that doesn't lend itself to oppressive systems of power, such as the traditional university that, especially in North America and in England and growing in Europe day by day, the debt education. So these are the topics we'll be talking about. If you're interested in joining, I encourage you to enroll, and I look forward to seeing you in class on Saturday at 1 p.m. New York time.